All right, we're live. Today, I have a real treat, which is that I have Mr. Altabe. So I say Mr. Altabe, even though it's Richard Altabe, and I feel very weird even saying that, but I'm just for the intro, because you were my principal in elementary school, and then later, this is how many years? Oh my gosh, we'll get into it. 39 years ago or something like that. Yeah. I remember when you came in. You also were my boss twice, kind of. Well, you had Camp Simcha by the Sea, right, which used to be Hartman Y, which maybe we'll get into also. And then also in the TOVA program.
Correct.
So you were my boss twice. And it is, you are a master educator. I've never had like what I call a master educator on this pod, and I'm very excited because everybody has a lot of opinions about education, but most of those people are not in education anywhere nearly as long as you. So I'd really love to hear that. But on a personal note, I had a difficult childhood myself, and we could talk about that soon, but I have never felt anything but wonderful goodness from you, and I was not easy to love. And you gave me, I think of you always fondly. I have a whole bunch of stories where I was like shocked as a child that I was like expecting to get like a potch and just getting love. And a lot of what I do today is based on a lot of the stuff you did. So I'm giving you a lot of credit you didn't even know about, but I literally base a lot of what I do. You're like one of those characters in my life that have really set me in the right path. So I figured I'd embarrass you before we start.
Okay, I'm definitely a character, but okay, thank you.
You're definitely a character. Okay. So anyway, welcome.
Thank you. This is beautiful, and I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of what you've done in your life. You've done a lot of great things. Our house especially, really saving kids' lives. I had the benefit of visiting your place and seeing what you do way back in the day.
What, in our place?
Yeah,
oh, wow.
Back, remember, years ago.
So many years ago.
Yeah, so you've done great things. And if I have a small, teeny piece of that, then that makes me feel good.
Right. So before we, I really have a million questions for you, but I will say, because I said it in this little intro, I remember one time, this is really what, I got like, one teacher was going crazy with me, just nuts with me. And he gave me detention or something like that, which is a terrible punishment to give me. It was not.
No, you mean to keep you down on the phone longer than you have to?
Right. No, it was because I'm going to torture you. And it was, I never got detention. It's just punishment for the teachers. Because then he had to stay with me. And I was obviously driving him absolutely insane. And then you came in to the room and he was like, I saw the look of satisfaction in his face because he's like, I got him now. Because like now I'm going to tell.
Right.
And he said, you know, this kid, he won't stop talking. He won't stop telling me things and doing things. He's misbehaving and he's in the ceiling and he's like, all these complaints. And you just said, yeah, he's like that. And then you're like, it's all right. And then you walked out. And I was like, what just happened? As a kid, I did not know how to process that because I thought I was in huge trouble. And you were just like, nah, he's all right. He's fine. He's fine. And I think it was just like a blip in your life. I'm sure you don't remember that. But for me, it was like, always like when I think about working with people, and like for me, I barely could remember because it's thousands of people, that little blip, and it makes like a serious impact on our lives. You also told me something that's still true about myself. I'm going to remind you before we get started. And this is probably 6th grade, maybe something like. We're going back. So I don't know how to calculate this. It's probably 36 years ago, something like that, right? And you said, you know, there's something about you that you're like a balloon. So if you squeeze one side, the other side pops out. And you squeeze the other side pops out. He's like, if you're doing well in one area, you can't do well in the other area. If you do it, you're so good at one thing, but you can never do all the other things. And like, but it was like a very good, like, you like put what I was going through into words. And I was like, yeah, I'm really good at hyper focusing. I didn't have the words for it, but like, but I'm terrible at everything else when I'm doing it, which by the way, has been the best thing in my entire life. it's you just got to hire people from the other side of the balloon. That's the trick. Anyway, that's all. I don't know if you remember any of this, but I
could tell you that the first story you said, I'm not sure I totally remember, but I do remember that notion of with you saying, just chill. He's like, you got to deal with him differently. Like you were not the regular. Right. And like I said to you before, you were smarter than all my teachers. Like I'm going to say that straight out. You were just smarter than all my teachers coming in with his curriculum and his lesson plan. And you're like, no, I'm not having any of that. Give me, give it to me in my way or forget about you, And if you couldn't tolerate you, then, off
it
with
didn't work.
You just, no. But if someone got you, like I think I got you, then I was able to get out of you way more than you would ever done for anybody else because I got you. And I think that's really the lesson, really in education, is that there's no such thing as cookie cutter children. Everybody's different, and you got to figure them out. And sometimes it's really challenging to figure them out, and almost impossible to figure out some kids. But at the end of the day, you have to believe that there's a key to that kid. And if you don't find that key to that kid, so not in my entire 37-year career as being a principal, I can't tell you that I got every single kid. But I was, let's say, self-aware enough to say that if I didn't get you, right, then I sent you someplace else, and I believed in you enough to know that somebody else would get you. So I never lost a kid in that way. I didn't succeed with every kid, but I never lost a kid. It's like I'm thinking of a kid. There's a kid in my current job. So about 2-3 years ago, we threw him out because he made you look like
like an angel.
Like an angel. He had a lot of organic problems. He had he had the issues of the family, but he also had the issues of like not just plain ADD, but a lot of anxiety and all kinds of things that you hear about today. And I didn't have cooperative parents like really get him the refuah he needed, so he was just bouncing here, there, and it just didn't work. So basically, at some point, I said, "Okay, done." But when I let him go, I said, "Listen, I messed up. It's me, not you. I messed up. You have what it takes. Somebody else is going to figure you out, and when they do, I want to hear about it." And he's cursing me out. I was okay with that. For about a year later, he would call me up once in a while just to curse me out. I said, "Okay. Don't worry, I'm davening for you." And I did, by the way. I davened for this kid. I davened for this kid still out of him every single day, 3 times a day for this kid. Yeah. Because when you can't do it, you need a HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what it takes. So then the best is the kid calls me up 2 months ago. "Hey, how you doing?" And the last year or so, it's been really good. Like he'll call me up 2-3 times a year, just update me on how good life is for him. He's living in Florida, which is probably better for him. He needs the good weather. Anyway, he calls me up. He goes, "Hey, Mr. Altabe, yeah, what's going on?" "Oh, I'm loving it. The yeshiva, I'm really doing well. They're really proud of me." So really, that's amazing. I'm so happy. Like I knew that I couldn't make it with you, but you found somebody who could make it with you. "Yeah, it's a chilled yeshiva. It's not like you had with so much rules. It's not so much rules. I needed like a little bit more space. Love it, love it, love it." Anyway, going back and forth. Then he says, "And by the way, my yeshiva is having a fundraiser where you donate money." I was like, oh my God, that was the best check I ever wrote. Because the kid who I threw out is calling me for money because he has that much of faith in me that he knows I'd give it to him. Like that to me made me feel like, yeah, I'm on the right track, That
was pretty good. I will say, I remember like when I went, I spent a lot of time like how could you kick a kid out? How can like that, right. And then now I'm in a place where, you have to be sober to be, let's say, in the sober home. So like there are times where I have to tell people to leave. And I always like I'm middle of writing a book, like for the last who knows how long.
Okay. Your sister wrote a great book, by the way.
Oh my gosh, did you read that book?
Yes, I did. She asked me to. I didn't get around. I have to apologize to her because I didn't really get around to like giving a full review, but I have it, and she's amazing.
Okay, what I want to do is I want to clip out you saying it was a great book, and I'll send it to her so she can put it on her Instagram. That'll be good. Yeah. Sure. No, that book is amazing.
Yes,
it's amazing.
No, she nails it on the whole ADD question. Really, she does.
Yeah, she's so anti-meds also.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Holy moly, I love it. I went on a rant on another podcast recently on about meds. I shouldn't be so crazy. Anyway, but I'm with her. So I think like this, like there has to be like 5 chapters on kicking out. Like the idea of kicking out and
how to kick out.
How to kick out.
When you kick out.
I have found that I'm always the closest to the people I kicked out. In my experience. And that's what you're saying. I don't hear too much, but I am the closest because now if you send someone to the next place which is part of the kicking out process, you now owe them triple. Like that's
Right.
how I see it.
Yeah, exactly.
So what you're
And you
saying,
have to follow up, and you have to be on top of it to make sure it
Right.
worked.
and they have to, if you don't kick them out, if they don't hug you at the end of the kick out, you did
Yeah.
it wrong. That's kind of how I
At
felt.
some point, exactly.
And I've done it with like my staff members, and they're like, "Did he just hug you while he walked out, like knowing you love him, even though he can't be here anymore?" And like that is what they have to feel. I'm not saying it's always been perfect, but it's been the horror of having to tell a kid they got to go somewhere when our whole philosophy is love. So okay, so you told me, was it 39 years?
37 years principling.
37 principling.
Yep.
And you were educated even before
I was
that.
a teacher before that, sure. Another 6 years before that. So 43-year career.
Oh,
It's a lot, you know?
that's a really
I
amazing.
sound so old. Oh, my God. Okay. Yeah, 43 years. Yep.
43 years. Like that's absolutely wild. And now you're going into consulting.
Yep.
Okay, so I I spent a lot of time in my early years thinking that like education, like that's the problem in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And for probably the last 15 years, I have dropped that. Like
Good.
I don't think that's what it is.
Okay.
Like I've watched educators trying their absolute best,
I think it got better.
and it has
I
gotten
think it's
better.
gotten a lot better in the 40 years I'm in it. Definitely a lot better. What was groundbreaking 40 years ago is like old school now, you know?
Right.
So like we're getting somewhere.
When you came in, okay, so I'm gonna come from my experience. I'm a little kid, so you're saying 36 years. That probably, but I remember you coming in, and I remember the interesting. I literally had this thought, and like you said, I was a smart kid, so I was always like analyzing. You were like a calm in the chaos. Like it was Darchei Torah. Like we were just flying around, it was a little school, and you came in with like a very professional. We're gonna run a professional program. And we were like running around, and there was like homeless people walking in and out. And it was like Hartman Y was happening.
The neighborhood kids came through the backyard. Remember that? It was, oh my God.
Yeah.
There was
And there were other programs
no
there.
security, and other programs. Yep. We're a little thing, 200 kids. Can you imagine? Darchei, 200 kids? Wow.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
It's wild. We were just that little tiny little spot. And then you came in, and even as a kid, I was like, he's taking this too seriously. Like, this is.
I did. Well, that's because of where I came from. So maybe let me go back to that.
So where are you coming from?
Okay, where am I coming from?
Tell us, everybody, what your backstory.
My back. I don't know how far back I want to go. I want to go to what you just talked about, then I'll go back from there. Okay, so let's just start with that.
Yeah.
My initial teaching experience in Jewish day schools was Yeshiva Flatbush High School. Okay, Yeshiva Flatbush High School but I mean then it for sure was the creme de la creme de la creme, the best #1 school that you could go to, and it's a school of excellence. And the Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi David Eliach, Alav Shalom, was Mr. Excellence. Like he drove it home. Like he was on you to make sure that you were striving for greatness and greatness and greatness and greatness and greatness. I had kids who did like Westinghouse projects, and he was like, "Oh, that's good. What are you doing next?" Like he was pushing, and so my initial experience in education was driven to be successful with a piece. And the piece was success doesn't mean that you got a 95 student to get a 95 in the regions because he didn't need you. The success was that you have a kid who's doing like 75 work and you get him to get an 85, 90 on the regions, then you were successful. So that was my sheet on being successful going in. But there's definitely this drivenness towards success and believing that everyone could succeed. And I had that deep, deep belief. Because even in my initial experience in Flatbush, they were they had it all level. There was a 401 classes like the super geniuses, and then the 404 class was like the kids who were smart but not achieving, and then there was like the bottom class that forget about it, sweat hard class. And I quickly saw that there was no real difference between a sweat hard class and the genius class. It's just a matter of their own motivation, their own personal motivation. And if you could light the fire, you could get a kid to do anything. And sometimes lighting that fire meant finding some way that they were talented that they didn't realize that they were talented in. So like I ran this science research program over there, and they were all about, bring home the bacon, bring home the prizes, bring home the prizes, bring home the prizes. That was Flatbush. My sheet there was, let me find a kid who needs this, who I could get him to get something that would make him feel like $1 million. So that was my initial foray into the whole thing. I come to Darchei. It was the complete polar opposite Flatbush. I'm talking about opposite. I remember one of the days before I took the job, it was like Yom Ha'atzmaut, right? So I was living in Brooklyn at the time. So I went in the morning, Yom Ha'atzmaut, they have a tefillah, they're davening, Hallel, with a bracha, they're saying a maftir, they go like all out, full on Yom Ha'atzmaut, right? And then I come to Darchei in the afternoon and they're saying Tachanun. It was like really funny. So like, okay, like, no, I'm not in the same place anymore. But there was Rabbi Bender. And Rabbi Bender is and was a gadol in the area of chinuch. So I saw right away, if I just take what I have and just incorporate what he's about, because he was really the first one who was about making sure everybody had a place. If you know about it, he was the first yeshiva to open up a real resource room. He was the first to take in kids that no one else would take, right, back in the day. And why? Because he had a heart. He was all heart, and the belief that everybody could do it. And it's a mission of Klal Yisrael to educate everybody, and you can't let anybody out. And when people would scream, "I'm like, Rebbe, I make this kid." I remember we took in a kid once. I don't want to give away too much because they'll figure out who he is. But let's put it this way. A kid transferred into Darchei in 6th grade from an educational system, Hasidish, where there was no English at all. Okay? Right? Smart kid, but he never had English. He comes into school. I said, Rebbe, what am I supposed to do with him? He's in 6th grade, doesn't know anything. Figure it out. What do you mean figure it out? Just figure it out. So like, okay. So when you have that in front of you to figure it out, you don't complain. You go, okay, I guess I have to figure it out. And we put him on some computer program. And within 2 years, he caught up. Okay? Wow. Because we figured it out. But like he was always in that can do. Don't tell me something is impossible. It's possible. It's possible. So if you take that plus excellence, you put that together, and that's me.
Wow. So you when you came in, I remember like right away you did like the stocks.
Yeah.
The stock contest.
Yeah. Oh, that was great.
I think it was my brother did. They actually won second place or first place or wild out of nowhere. This little Spelling hilarious school and
science fair stuff like
nobody believed that Darchei was just a tiny school. Like it's like a college campus now. It's wild. But your science fairs were amazing.
Crazy,
I did the same science fair every year because I forgot about it till the day of.
Yeah, that was always us. Even though I gave the sheets in advance to make.
Oh yeah, I never knew ever.
Yeah.
So I always did the bottle with the balloon on top. That was all I could do.
That's a good one.
and I literally did it like 5 years in a row because every year the morning of, I was like, do we have a balloon? Do we have a balloon? I can do this if I have a balloon. And it blows up if it's hot water.
Good times.
Yeah, those.
No, but we produced some really quality projects, and then ultimately there's a science fair contest of all the yeshivas that they used to do at HAL, where I ended up being principal. But they ran this into Yeshiva Science Congress, and we started submitting people to that, and we would win every once in a while. It was great.
Right.
Same thing with the spelling bee. Remember Yudi Gordon?
No.
Yudi Gordon was my first 8th grade class. Okay, so I came in 1988. He's now in the first 8th grade class, graduated in 1989.
1989. Okay.
Right. So now I'm making I want to make my mark, right? So I go, okay, we're participating in the BJE spelling bee competition. All the yeshivas have a spelling bee. And we had spelling bee. He's a finalist. And I say to Rabbi Bender, okay, he's a finalist. I'm taking him to the city for the finals. I'm like, what? No, I'm taking him to the city for the finals. And they're like, are there girls there? Yeah. I'm taking him to the city for the finals. Like, And then he said, good idea, go. And then the Rebbe was not so excited. But we just pushed through because I wanted there to be an understanding that just you could be learning Torah on the highest levels, and Darchei did produce that you don't have to lose out on the secular studies just to do that. It's not either or. You could do both, and you could do both with the sense of I'm a Torah Yid, and Torah is the most important thing, and I'm machshiv Torah more than anything else. And that was another one of my things that kind of carried through for the last 37 years.
Wow, it sounds like you're bringing really crumb ideas in. No, I'm kidding.
No, there's no reason. There's no reason. It's not an either or. Today there's a lot of great stuff coming out from secular studies books, readers, and books, and social studies, and science. And stuff.
They have their own books.
Our own, produced by frum people with frum hashkafas that are on the greatest levels possible, and it's doable. Just that market had to be developed, and now it's way beyond me. Great.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. When you moved in, what were there things that absolutely shocked you about? You were coming from a little bit of a different community, and then
the kids in the hallway, that was shocking.
The kids in the hallway.
It was like the kids. There were always kids in the hallway, always.
Right.
Yeah.
And you come from Flatbush.
I'm coming from Flatbush, right? There's kids in the hallway like all of the time.
Yeah.
And nobody cared. The interesting thing I like to say about the difference between Flatbush and Darchei, in Flatbush, in order to get by, kids cheated left and right. A lot of cheating because how do you keep up with that push to be great if you're gonna? They have to cheat, and this is part of it. And it was part of life, and you try to catch them, but it was part of life. I come to Darchei, nobody cheated. Nobody cared. And finally, I was there 5 years, and then finally I had a cheating case. I made it. It's finally cheating. They care. They care enough to cheat, but they didn't care. Nobody cared. It was just well, let's go. Let's kind of hang out. And,
I never cheated. I didn't.
Who would want to cheat?
What's the
There's nothing
difference?
to cheat for. It didn't matter. 65 was a good grade back in the day.
There was not. But I'm curious because I'm dealing with the Monthox crowd now. I mean, it's been a mix, but now I'm dealing with addiction. So addiction's everybody.
Right.
So
right,
it's not.
Yeah.
So the Monthox crowd, their success in terms of graduation rate is staggering.
Right.
It's absolutely staggering. And they have and then the more frum crowd, and maybe Darchei has changed or whatever other schools, but the more frum crowd, it's what my experience was, English studies were on the side.
Yeah.
And I feel when I'm looking at it, when I'm looking at the Monthox, because all my kids end up going to Monthox ultimately. I have 2 kids in YU now, and I have we end up everybody shifting. MTA, Mayano. I didn't go to Shaare. Now my kids in R. They opened a new school, R Yisrael. It's
I heard of it.
Scott.
Yep.
So he went right there in 9th grade. He's he spoke to them. He's I'm not going to another school. They're too nice. So, they have this. I always thought that the fact that an English teacher could walk in and you could treat him not as nicely, or it's not being machshav, that it actually hurts the kids pretty badly in the long run. Mm-hmm. It definitely hurts the teachers too. Mm-hmm. But I always thought that it's also such a bad midah to, and this is weird for me to say this now because I didn't take anything seriously as a kid, but it's such a bad midah to that if you're doing something, you're not doing it the best.
Right.
I had a podcast with my nephew actually last night. I'm exhausted because it was till 3 o'clock in the morning. But we had a podcast with him, which was really fun. I asked him, "What's the best advice I ever given you?" Which was a little narcissistic type of question, I think.
You're entitled.
It was my podcast.
Why not? Podcast.
So he said, "You told me whatever you do it the best."
Of course.
That's your teachings,
that
right?
was exactly from my playbook. Yep.
That's right when you play.
But when they hired me in Darchei, that's what they told me. And I'll tell you what the mindset, why they wanted a guy full-time. I was the first full-time ever English principal in a right-wing yeshiva. They never had that before. Never.
Is that
it was
true?
Always, before me, it was always a public school guy who came in the afternoon or a retired guy who's too old for the job. One of those 2 choices, that's what you got. And therefore, you had to look at that as being secondary. And I was the first where I was there all day. They gave me some administrative jobs, government programming things. I got involved with that. So this way it kept me busy, but I was there all day. So I was part and parcel of the yeshiva. So anyway, where we were going with that question?
The do the best act.
Oh, so when they hired me, there were kids who had gone to Philly, right? Philly was the premier right-wing yeshiva to go to for high school. And they had kids year after year, you're going to Philly. And Philly, and Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky, right? He should live and be well, and unbelievable what he is today. But then Philly was a school that demanded excellence in English, right? They demanded excellence in writing, excellence in speaking, excellence in reading, right? I remember one time, it was a great story. One time, kid tried to get into Philly, and he was brilliant, top of the class, whatever, and they didn't want to take him. And Ray Bender says, "You know why they don't want to take him?" I said, "Why?" "Because his Iowa scores are weak." I said, "Are you kidding me? The Iowa scores are weak? Philly's not going to take a kid because the Iowa scores are weak?" He said, "Yeah, so could you help him out? Could you talk to Shmuel Kamenetsky?" Now, I'm 32, okay? I'm going to talk to Shmuel Kamenetsky. I was shaking. Oh, my God. Shmuel Kamenetsky is talking to me. He says, well, and he understood how to read those scores. Because I was pushing that part he was good in. Oh, he was good in math. Yeah, but the comprehension, he doesn't have Havana. That's going to be a problem for us. So that place was machshav secular studies the right way. And because we wanted to send kids there, they were failing in the English, and that was a problem. So one of the things they wanted to fix was to get somebody who was going to raise up the English department to a level that they would do well there. And also I was tasked the following thing. They told me like this: not every kid that's in Darchei is going to go to a yeshiva high school where there's going to be a serious English department. Therefore, the English knowledge they get by 8th grade is all they're ever going to know. So therefore, you are tasked with getting them to the highest level possible by 8th grade, because you don't know what's going to be after that, right? And so the ones who are going to go on to places like Yeshiva Far Rockaway, which had a very good English department for high school, okay, so that was, they were on the track. That was the average kid. But the kids who went off to places, like Passaic or these places that had nothing, then it was my job to make sure they learned something, because that's what the parents wanted. So I was tasked with really upgrading the whole thing, even though I walk into a place where no one took anything seriously.
Yeah.
But we changed it. And I did it by making it fun. That's what the science fairs and all that, I made it fun. I remember the presidential election of 1988. Again, I started in September.
Oh my gosh, I remember this.
Presidential election in 1988. I turned it into color war, if you remember.
Was it Bush or Clinton?
It was Bush versus...
Bush Gore? Was it Bush
Gore? Gore? Yeah, no, it was not Bush Gore. It was Bush.
Okay.
Yeah, the other George Bush. And it was Quayle. I remember we did a Dan Quayle thing. It was a whole Dan Quayle thing going on.
I remember this.
Right?
Okay, right. It was Bush, Quayle.
Versus maybe Michael Dukakis. Probably it was Michael Dukakis. Yeah, it was Dukakis. So the people were walking around with signs, and we had like a parade, and we decorated the whole, like, color. I decided they're not going to understand me, but camp they get. And I was a camp guy. Remember, I was a camp guy from before. We're turning the 1988 election into color war. And then the kids had a blast, and they had fun, and they're making speeches, and they did the research, and they really were into it. And then they realized, hey, we could be into English, and it doesn't mean it's taking away from Torah, and it could be fun. And then that got me going.
Right.
That was my secret move.
Well, I'll tell you a hot take right now. I believe that people not taking English studies seriously is one of the reasons we have such an enormous dropout issue in the Jewish community. Not even talking about I'm talking about because it was like half your day is useless,
right?
Which is the worst thing to possibly do to a child.
It's the worst. Yep.
And then if I'm not good at the learning, or if I don't like the learning, there's nothing else for me. I'm about to spend the next 4 years just hating my life. And there's where am I striving to? I'm not going to be learning.
There's also no student activities, and student activities are a great thing in the modern schools,
Right.
Because you find something that you're good at. Like stuff like
you brought that into Darchei?
A little bit.
A little bit.
I could, but I'm saying the spelling bees and the math things and the science things, just to make it a little bit more interesting, We did a newspaper, something to give kids something to strive to be. We made a GO. We had a student organization. They had meetings. Remember? I don't know if I did in your times.
I remember the things were happening, but I got to tell you, it was pretty much me and Ellie Geffen hanging out in the hallway. So I don't know. Ellie Geffen was like 3 years younger than him.
Oh my God.
And we were like,
I was working, I worked in the Hartman White Camp. We talked about that, right? So Hartman White Camp was in the same facility as Darchei.
I went to Hartman White as a kid.
Yeah. So I'm going to Hartman White Camp. And I had been there already. It's not like I was new. And they knew I'm coming into Darchei the next year. I remember Paul Kantrowitz, all of a sudden, comes up with me and says, see this kid? And it's Ellie Geffen is in the hallway. He says, that's what you got to deal with. I said, oh, great. Hey, Ellie Geffen, how you doing? And, I became good friends. He was a good kid.
Yeah. Well, there was a secret all of us troublemakers knew. This is the secret? The secret that only the troublemakers knew is that Rabbi Pressor is the nicest guy on the planet.
Oh, true. So true.
And all the good kids were terrified of Rabbi Pressor.
Because the voice.
He would just scare all the kids were like shaking. Right. And all the troublemakers were like, our favorite thing in the world was to be sent to Rabbi Pressor's office because he was just like a delicious person inside. So you'd come and be like, Perlman, what'd you do again? That was our little secret.
We had a good team. We had a really good team.
You had a good team. So here's a question, a bigger education question.
Sure.
Bigger education question is, do you think, and this is where I was getting to with the 15 years ago, like I changed over, do you think that we have transferred parenting over to schools?
Totally.
Yeah?
Totally, not a question. Totally.
What do you think the damage of that is? Like because to me that's where I chilled. I was like, wait a minute, they didn't give birth to this kid, and you want them to fix your kid and give your kids Mitos and
it's unbelievable. I never 30 years ago never did I get involved in play dates in elementary school. Do you know what I'm saying? Two kids have a play date. They got into a fight at somebody's house at a play date. That's not my problem, right? They get into a fighting camp.
I mean, they would call you about that?
Not 30 years ago,
right?
Today. In elementary school, girls especially, but even by the boys, two kids get into a fight. That's it. That's the only thing I'm getting a phone call about. And I have to go sit there and resolve their drama, okay, because the parents can't do anything. In fact, I even created in-house something called the peer mediation program. I trained 5th grade kids to be able to mediate the stupid disputes. And it took so much pressure off of me, and they were great. It's like these are the future social workers of America. I trained like 30, 40 kids over a couple of years. And they loved it, because we had like a professional group come in, and they sat down with these kids and gave them like 18 hours worth of real social work training. And then there was like a protocol that they followed, and they got the two kids to air out their stuff. And great. But like today, parents can't handle it. Parents can't handle conflict. Parents can't handle when their kids are upset. They just can't handle it. They need help. And I find myself, that's what I've been doing, helping, because they can't. And I mean, there are some, that's not to say everybody's bad. There are some amazing parents out there, but they're far and few between.
Right.
Because
well, I think it goes both ways. Like, I know in the frum world, definitely in the frum world, like, there's a lot of demands on the parents to keep up with the school. Like, so they're a little bit like scared of the school. So they're trying to do things to like make the schools happy. At the same time, the school's like, I don't want to raise your kids. So I think they're both hurting each other.
I'll tell you something. There's also a lack of communication between parents and schools. Big problem. Big problem. Do you know what goes on today? Teacher gives a homework. The teacher's wrong. It's a lousy homework assignment. They don't know how to do it, right? So back when I was principal 30 years ago in Darchei, teacher gave a homework assignment like that. I got 25 phone calls from 25 separate parents yelling at me about the stupid homework, right? Today, they don't talk to you. What do? They go on their chats. There's a parent chat. Do you like the homework? I don't like the homework. And they start trashing the teacher, trashing the school, and nobody talks to the school. So maybe I have one or two key parents in the chat who like take a snap,
like, this is what's happening.
Take a screenshot and say, you better deal with this. And like, I'll deal with it, but I laugh. I said, could you tell the parent who's upset, just like pick up the phone and call because I'll help? You know what I mean? I'm not going to, if a teacher did something dumb, I'm not here to deny teachers doing things that are dumb. Teachers are human beings. They don't always do smart things, but like communicate. So there's a lack of that. There's a lack of communication between the parents and the school, and that's a disconnect. And then there's a lack of communication in terms of the...
Do you feel like there's different, I know, picking on this again, difference between... No. I know when I moved to the monthox schools, I make demands of the school more than I was able to do in the more from schools. Like in the monthox schools, I was like, I'm paying real money. I want service. Help me out. You don't see the difference.
No different. I know.
It's the same thing.
In Darchei, I lived in Far Rockaway. It was a 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week job because I couldn't go to shul. You know what I'm saying? I know one time I went to Myra in the White Shul, and a guy came over to me, a great guy, I love this guy. Came over to me. He wouldn't stop about something that some teacher did that rightfully he's upset about, but like, can you just let me daven Myra like a person? You know what I mean? So there's no life. It doesn't change. Right, left, middle, up, down.
It doesn't matter.
I think that's a misnomer. No, you're wrong.
Okay.
First of all,
I don't know a lot of things.
Parents writing out a check, whatever it is, $10,000, $15,000.
Whatever it is, it's the most money they have.
It's a lot of money. It's more than mortgage sometimes. And in a right-wing world, you have 5, 6 kids. It's way more, like a modern family is like 3, 4 kids, and the right-wing is 6, 7 kids. So it's the same tuition bill, even if you're paying whatever, it comes out the same. Right. They're dying, and they need service. They can't handle it. They're going to be demanding. I don't think parental demand is parental demand. That's not the issue.
Oh, wow. So let me ask a question. Now with technology and all this stuff going on, which is wild.
Yeah.
And AI and all this stuff happening, are we going to have to change our education system?
We have to.
So what are changes that are going to be coming?
Like this business of I have to fight what's going to happen till I can't fight anymore. It overtakes you. is like a losing battle, right? Like when they did the Asifa with the internet, I don't know how much trouble I'm going to get right now. I don't really, you know what I'm saying? I get limiting access to everything that the internet has to offer, and that should have been the focus, okay? How do we use this thing so that it's safe? That should have been the beginning, the middle, and the end. And there could be different levels of different focus for different people. I get it, right? Had we done that from the beginning, we would have gotten someplace, okay? What happened in the end? We said usher. Great, usher. So once you did usher, the 60 to 70% of the population, including in the right-wing world, who had to use the internet, said, you guys are nuts and not listening, right? So they just used it without any gedarim. So the kids were a mess, right? And then the percentage of the planet that can go through life without using the internet, gewaldic for them. I'm thrilled that there's such a way to be, that you could be without the internet. But you didn't help Klal Yisrael deal with the challenge of the internet by saying usher.
Right.
Now AI is coming. And now they're making the same mistake. Usher. Don't say it's usher.
They made AI usher?
They're gonna. They're gonna usher. Because it's going to change everything and whatever. Don't make it usher. Make gedarim, make it make sense, figure out a way to harness it so that it's for the benefit of Klal Yisrael. And warn people about the dangers of it early enough so that you could create, filters.
Right. Well, I had an experience with my own kids is that one school, my kids were in Darchei Torah, which is, and it was a great school. Mm-hmm. Yankee, which was running it. And he was like, he really understood it. And he was like, internet is a thing to stay. We have to teach him how to do it. He had like a very reasonable, similar to what you're saying, very reasonable approach. And so they never made us sign anything or anything like that. And then there was like a change of leadership, and there's a lot of pressure to go to the Usher camp. Like there's a lot of pressure.
Because that becomes, it's like, you know how by the liberals it's called virtue signaling? You know what I'm talking about, right? If you want to be woke, you have to like believe in all these things. So in order to be like from, you have to virtue signal from kite, and that's one of the things you have to do. And I think that is not the best way to go, because then you're just going, 37 years ago when everyone asked their TV, right?
Right.
Everyone had a TV. They just had it in a box, in a thing, in a closet, in a place. They pulled it out. So come on. So just that same mindset of faking out the system, making people sign something, but everybody's lying, and that terrible chinuch that gives over to the kids is just being perpetuated because we continue to make rules that don't make sense for how people actually live their lives.
Right.
So a rule that says, if you want to be in this school, every child in the school has to have filtered access to the internet, right? Every child in the school, we don't want you to use an iPhone until age whatever, right? Whatever that age group is. Great. We want, or not have an iPhone altogether, just a regular dumb phone. Good. Make rules that make sense with developmental stages thought out, and I think people respect that. I think when you make crazy rules that don't fit the population that you have, it's a problem.
Well, I have an interesting thing. I saw this reel the other day, and it like reminded me of me. Like I grew up no TV, no nothing. Like it was like, and now I'm completely addicted to everything. Like I could watch every movie forever and ever and ever. So it failed for me.
Well, they were right not to let you watch TV when you were a kid. That'd be, oh my God. No,
I did
messed up enough. TV on top. Oh my God.
Forget it. No, this person was like, this mother was saying, no TV. And she's like, I know TV. And now she was talking about all her problems. She's like, it didn't work for me because she grew up with no TV. No, but eventually that school made me like sign. They were like, we want you to sign. And I'm like, you're going to have to make a decision if you're kicking my kid out. My values, I don't lie. And I'm just, very few people did it. I was like, I'm not lying. He's already in seventh grade. Again, you got to figure it out.
The other way. I'll say it the other way. A parent has to find the school that hashkafically aligns with them. Too often, parents are going, because of social pressure, they're putting their kids into schools that do not align with them, right? Because they will have to fit in with everybody else. So you have to take a hard look at yourself in the mirror. Who are you? If are you fake Haredi, right? There's a lot of that going on, fake. Right? I have to look, I'll dress the part, but then I'll go to the beach in Florida and take off my shaitel and I don't care. If you're like that, then you have to pick the school that fits that. You can't be in a school that doesn't reflect who you really are, because guess what? Kids see. And if you put your kid through a system that you're not aligned with, okay, and they see you doing stuff that the school says you can't do, and then you lie about it on top of it, toast. And I'm not talking about a family that is becoming newly frum and growing, because those families, even if they're not 100% on the page of the school they're in, because they're growing, everybody in the whole family is seeing that growth. So that's that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people who are acting one way, but are really another way, then they're living a double life, and the kids have to see that, and then you expect the kids to grow up normal. How could they grow up normal?
I just, while you're saying this, I'm cracking up in my head because I'm like, I agree with everything you're saying, but I realize that now we have to make schools for fakers. Like which No, I'm saying which school do I send my kids if I'm trying to fake? I'm trying to be fake from. It's not just for the school. Like you realize, and then I want to go to Florida. So where do I go?
No, there's places.
I don't want to send my kid to a Mahardi.
I'm not naming names. No way. You're not getting me to do that. But don't try to, because then you know what happens. So let's say those people, now I'll tell you how it works. So let's say you have a school that's a right-wing school, or any school, forget right-wing, any school has a hashkafa that's X, okay? Right. And then you have people in the school who are sending that who are X minus Y, whatever that is, okay? And now things are going on. So now the people who feel X are going to look at those Y people and go, I don't want my kid in the same class as them. So it becomes a whole social thing, because I don't want to be with that kid because that kid's life is too fast for me. I don't want my kid to be affected by that. And that causes all kinds of problems. So I'm saying it becomes a real issue.
But I think the issue is bigger because we at a point where we had community schools.
Yeah. Like those days are gone. I know,
right. So they're gone. So now we're in a weird time where you have to pick a camp pretty early, and that's hard. That's hard. I want to tell you, I have a Rabbi Herbst that he passed away, but he was the one I asked Shiloh's to at the time when he was alive, and for my own personal. And he said, so I asked him. I was sending my girls to school. There was one school that accepted them that was like above our hashkafa,
right?
And another school that was, I would say, below our hashkafa,
right?
Although, whatever.
Right.
I don't think either of them were my hashkafa, but that's a whole different story. But it was one that was below where I was, and one was above. So he said, you always go with above.
Correct. I agree with that. But But
right.
Then be real. Meaning, don't lie. Don't lie in front of your kids. Don't lie. Just can I tell you my own personal story, But
I didn't up and change my whole hashkafa.
No, can I tell you my own personal story, my own kids? I moved to Far Rockaway. I was more modern then than I am now, right?
Right.
So, but I moved in June. So there's no way I was getting into a school for my kids in June. So the Darchei guy said, okay, we'll put you into TAG. I said, okay, fine, preschool, I don't care, go to TAG. So now my kids are in TAG, and Rabbi Whiteman's Rabbi Whiteman, and he has his rules, and he's right to have his rules. I'm not on the page of his rules. Right. So I try my best, but I find myself in conflict with those rules. And I said to him after 2 years of it, I came in and met with him in his office. I said, Rabbi Whiteman, your school's amazing. I have no problem with your school, but I have a problem with me, okay? I'm not on the page of the school. I don't want my kids to grow up and feel less than because their house is not on the level of the school. Let me put my kids into CAHAL where I could be more on the firmer end of the school, and my kids will feel comfortable because their hashkafa in the house matches the hashkafa of the school. You know what he did? He looked at me and said, I wish all my parents were as honest as you, okay?
Really?
Because I was straight up, and I put my kids into CAHAL. And then 6 years later, I was back in his office. So Rabbi Whiteman, I've been reading, he used to have these amazing letters. I don't know if you know about him. Moshe Whiteman.
I mean, my sisters went there.
He had these letters that were there's a whole book of his letters. It's really? It's worthwhile reading. Because he would put out his shitas and hashkafas, very strong, very well written, beautifully worded. And so I'm reading his letters. I walk in I said, Rabbi Whiteman, I've been reading your stuff lately. And for some weird reason, I find myself agreeing with you more and more and more. And for some weird reason, I find myself disconnected more and more from where Halb is. Clearly, I'm moving. I'm growing. I think I have to bring my kid back. Besides, my kid is way more from than me and Halb and everything. She definitely needs out, okay? She's my daughter, lives over here in Muncie right now. Married to a guy learning for 20 years. She was a 6th grade bas mitzvah flip out, and she didn't stop after that.
She just kept going.
Went to BJJ, did the whole 9 yards. Okay, so I needed to leave, but it wasn't just because of her. The whole family just was in a different place. So then I moved to Dad because that was the fit that I had. I was always looking what fits me right? And not trying to be, and of course, once being who I was and principal in Darchei, and I left HALB. Oh my God, what does that mean about HALB? I said, HALB's a great school. It's just not me. Right. Just when I left TAG, what do you left TAG? No, TAG is a great school, but it wasn't me. But by being honest with who I was and what my kids were about, I developed, I think, good kids. I mean, they'll have what to say, and I don't know. But I think I did a decent job.
You did. Okay. I have to have them on the pod.
No, you have to have them, yeah.
It's always scary. I'm trying to get my kids on the pod. See what they all like. No, you do this now, guy. We're normal people.
Exactly.
You
can't take yourself too seriously when you're a parent. You just say, listen, if I mess up this therapist, go to them,
Yeah. Well, I find that topic is a really tough one, like figuring out where your kids should go.
You have to be honest, just honest.
Well, that's never been my problem. No, I'm saying like, that's
you honest. Oh my God. You got me. Mr. Altabe, that teacher's an idiot. You want to qualify that a little bit? No, he's an idiot.
Really?
Yeah.
I probably wasn't wrong.
No. Were you wrong? I didn't say you were wrong, but you were honest. That's what made you great. You were always honest. But I think a lot of people are dishonest because they feel community pressure is driving them to be certain things. They're worried about the wrong things. They're worried about shidduchim when the kid is 6. Like, stop. Just stop. Make your kid a healthy kid.
Yeah.
And then they'll do well in shidduchim. Honestly. Make them healthy. We don't have enough healthy kids out there.
I don't even know. I mean, most of my podcasts are on like how the heck we're supposed to make kids healthy today. Like, it's like we just have 2 parents.
It's simple. It's really simple. Live the best life you possibly could live and be as honest as you possibly can and be real. If they see real, they're going to want to copy you. If they see fake, they're running the other direction.
Wow.
And the yeshiva is the same thing. Yeshiva has to be real. If the yeshiva is real, they'll follow it, right? If the yeshiva is fake, in other words, if yeshiva is choosing to institute a rule because the yeshiva down the block has the same rule, I could see right through that. But if the yeshiva's hashkafa is one that's built because the rebbeim really believe it and they're pumping it and that's what they're about, then they're going to run to it because it's real. People, we don't have enough reality. You know what I'm saying? Right. Honest, reality, real.
I think there's a lot of people that
authenticity, I think is the word I want. Authenticity.
Right.
People want authenticity. If it's authentic, they're going to go for it. If the frumkeit you're putting out there is authentic, people are going to grab it. If it's fake, nope.
I love what you're saying. Okay, so now on a little different topic. If you had to reinvent the education system, there are like a whole bunch of things that I'm curious about. Like the amount of hours that kids are in school. Is that I don't really know the answer, so I'm asking you. Like what is the deal with the amount of hours that we're putting kids in school? How many hours you want it to be? I don't know. I think school should end at 12 in the afternoon. I'm on that extreme. I think you could teach the kids a lot by 12 o'clock in the afternoon. There's a lot. I had a funny thing when I was a kid, and I don't know but I would read all my textbooks in the first 2 weeks. Right. Because they were fascinating. Right. But then I was bored the rest of the year. Right. So to me, I was like, you could have taught me everything if you figured out how to like tie me down, then I could have. So that's how I thought. I like kids go to school all day and then they have more. I don't know if it's bad or good. I really don't know because we all kind of get used to what we have. And I'm not an educator in the sense that I know what is needed. I know what frustrated me as a child. And I know that I felt all my kids are smart, which is beautiful. I married a smart woman and they're all smart. And they were all very bored in school, pretty much. Like there was a lot of hours. They did well, thank God. But they're not really troublemakers. So they didn't make trouble. But they also are like, what am I doing here for a lot of hours? I'm assuming there are other kids that are. So that's one question I have about actual hours.
It's the delivery of the content.
Okay, explain that.
Meaning, you can't. We are in kids today. I don't think kids ever, but I will tell you, kids today. You cannot subject a child to sitting in a room with 25 other kids, and a teacher's in front of the room, talking at you for 45 minutes, an hour and a half, whatever it is. It just doesn't work that way. It's not because of TV and it's not because of technology. It just doesn't work. There are plenty of amazing techniques that could be utilized. In my school where I am now, we have something called blended learning. Blended learning, you know what that is?
No, explain.
Blended learning is so way cool, okay? Now, again, for a school that is technology averse, there's a way to do it also, but I'm going to explain how we do it, and then I'll tell you how to do it technology averse style. So you have, instead of you having desks, tables. Picture this, tables, table. Each table holds 4, 5, 6 kids, okay? Around the back of the room, computers. Then there's like a carpet on the floor and a smartboard. Teacher puts all the kids on the carpet, teaches the mini lesson for 15 minutes. Today we're going to learn about 1 + 1 = 2. Tries different examples, goes through it, gets kids back and forth. You got 1 + 1 = 2? Good. Now you're going to go practice, okay? Half the class goes on the computers. Half the class is the tables. The half that's on the computers taking the kid from where they are to where they want to go. You can have 12 kids doing 12 different things because the computer's matching to the kid.
They're loading into their own thing.
Everybody's on their own thing, and the computer remembers where they were before, and you're progressing according to you, not according to what the teachers locked you into. So you could just keep going. Okay. The other kids now are at 4 tables, 12 kids, right? You have 3 kids at a table. You have a teacher, or 4 kids at the table. Teacher's teaching one group, the assistant's teaching another group. You have maybe a learning center person, resource room person come teach another group. You're now sitting 1 on 4 like this, and you're looking at the kids. Nobody's making trouble because you're 1 on 4. You're not 1 on 25. 1 on 25 doesn't work for 2 hours. No way. And you do it for 20 minutes. Get up, rotate. Now you're moving. Movement's in the classroom. It's amazing. Now, we're doing that in the Limudei Chol also. Not as defined as that because we don't have all the tools yet, but there are computer programs out there. I could pump one. There's a place called Limudei. Limudei is based out of Toronto, and he has like 100 schools he's doing this in.
Oh, really?
And it's Chumash program and a Mishnah, anything. They have the whole Hamechanech Torah on there, and with all the skills built in that you have to cover. So he'll teach. Instead of teaching the lesson to the whole class once, he's teaching it twice. Take the first half of the class, the stronger half of the class, for let's say 20 minutes. Go in the back now, work, flip. The weaker part of the class come up. I'll break it down more, and I give it to you the way you need it, and then you were on the computer before. And I get data back to tell me what the kids are up to, so I know how to plan the next day. That's a lot more intelligent way of teaching than the way we've been doing it for 50 years before that.
Wow.
Now, even if you're technology averse and you don't want to have computers in the room, you don't need to have computers in the room. If you think about your room as being a multi-centered locations, right? So you have one activity going on in one place, another activity going on. So let's say you have your Rebbe, right? There's ksiva. There's a ksiva table, there's a kriya table, and there's you doing a chumash table. 3 tables. And you do your chumash with one group of 6 kids, 5, 6, 7 kids, flip, and you rotate. Each time you're teaching a smaller group. The smaller group is going to learn better. That's where education needs to go. It's happening in a lot of places. It needs to happen in more places.
Are people, I mean, I'm very into the technology, so I know
you
that.
don't even need the technology. You just need to think about running your room as not one guy in front and 25 desks drinking in education. Not happening. You know? Listen, you ever go to a Daf Yomi?
I don't know how anybody ever
You go to a Daf Yomi shir?
Yeah.
Okay, so you sit by Daf Yomi shir, the guy in front giving the shir, right? And you're listening, you're falling asleep, right? And then you have, what's his name? Stefanski. Right? He's got charts, he's got this, and it's interactive. Who's Daf Yomi you going to?
Everybody's going
to Stefanski. He's got thousands of people, right?
Yeah.
Pumped up, motivated. He has a $2 million budget to make it like real, right?
Yeah.
That's how you have to give over education to. Then the kids will sit. It's not about the hours. It's about the delivery.
So, man, kids will sit for 8-10 hours a day if it's exciting and it's happening and they're learning.
If you build in activities that keep them engaged. If it's boring lecture, no. I remember, this is the best. You'll love this story. In 2003, they sent me on a principal's program to Harvard. Okay, we had the top geniuses in education talk to us. 3 hours one guy, 3 hours another guy. And because they were so amazing, I'm like drinking it. So then one day, it was a full day. And on this one day, they put in, after a full day, a guy who was going to give us a lecture from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. And he wasn't a famous guy. He was some associate professor that they were just throwing at us. And I sat there, I was dying. I said to myself, oh my God, I'm guilty of this. I do this. I take kids in Darchei. I stick them in front of a teacher who's horrible at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I expect them to behave. I was literally going out of my calendar. You'd be proud of me. I couldn't sit. I was drawing pictures. I was counting the ceiling tiles. I couldn't. What could you do? So you have to just make it engaging. If it's engaging, it's good.
I just thought that would probably be the best way to teach that idea is start your lecture by being incredibly boring like that, and then switch it to exciting and see what just happened to you. Yeah. That's what's happening to the kids.
No, run your teacher workshops and before school starts and show them
Yeah.
And by the way, the worst behaved participants at a professional development are teachers. They can't. They have no. You think they can sit? No,
they can't sit.
They can't. They need to interrupt and they talk and.
That was probably my biggest revelation when I became an adult, is that there are no adults.
Yeah.
I have not found an adult yet. I'm like, we're just a bunch of kids still doing this. Yeah. We're acting more adulty,
right?
But inside we're like,
that's the piece that I think the success that I've had over the years is like having a wider understanding of what you're dealing with, and not locking myself into this narrow box that if you don't fit, you're out. And always looking at new. Like what's new, and how can I take whatever's new and make it work for me?
Have you had like situations where like you're so frustrated, you're trying to make certain changes, and people are just not moving in the direction you're like,
the hardest thing to do is change people. You know that.
Yeah,
you know that.
But I'm saying, you having that on like the top level where you're like, I would like to make. Is it some of it is like culturally or
no,
just?
So I mean. Again, I don't know how much I want to say out. This is again a public forum, but let's put it this way:
anything you don't like, I could edit.
No, it's okay. I'll say. Listen, I went to HALB. Okay, yes. I went to HALB as a kid. I had my kids in HALB, and now I'm principal of HALB. It's a cool story by itself, right?
That's very cool.
Kindergarten. I went from kindergarten to 8th grade. I experienced certain things. I sent my kids. They experienced certain things. Now I'm principal. So now you come to the school as principal. When you've had that experience, you go, okay. I know walking in here what I have to change. There's a certain culture of this school that needs to be fixed. And there was a certain culture they had about kids who didn't fit, kids who didn't learn well, like that they just canceled you out of the system and like that. No,
Right.
They didn't really have, like, believe it or not, for all its academia, let's say a HALB had, and Darchei in its way that they had resource from a learning center set up, was way more advanced than HALB in that sense, right?
Oh, really?
Way, because they were individualizing education for the kid as best they could, compared to a day school that's like, okay, you got to fit this box. You're in, you're out, that kind of thing.
Right.
Okay. So there I am. I'm in the school. I go, okay, I'm up. I'm just turning the place upside down. So I decided to create something called the ICT program. ICT is integrated collaborative teaching. So I had these computers. I go, wait a minute. And they had these stations. If I hire an extra teacher to be like the teacher for the weak special ed kids in the room, I can teach them alongside the regular kids, make them feel like they're part of the class, because I'm not sticking them in a self-contained class someplace else. They're in the same room. Both teachers are teaching the class, so everyone views both teachers as the teachers. And now I'm going to just get them to the level, because my standard is going to be not I'm special ed, therefore I'm dumbing down the curriculum for you. I'm special ed, I'm going to make the curriculum fit you so that you could keep growing like every other kid. Okay? Right. That was about as radical as idea as it could be, especially in that school.
Okay.
And I got pushed back. Oh my God, what are you doing? Luckily, I had some amazing support. Okay. First of all, I got financial support right away from a few key people. So I was able to fund it, because the first question was who's paying for it.
Yeah.
So I got people to pay for it. And then I had the president of the school, whose kid was a genius, who said, I believe in what you're doing so much. I want my kid in that class. So once he put his kid in the class, and she's genius, right? So then everyone went, okay, it must be something we should try. The first group of those kids just graduated this last week.
Yeah.
Okay. So there were 10 kids, boys and girls. And we run separate boys and separate girls classes all the way through. So one of those boys participated in something called National History Day. He won on the school level, the Long Island level, the state level, went to the nationals, was the number 4 project in the country, and was considered to be the best project in New York State.
Wow.
And he was one of those kids. And there was a girl who went the same thing. She made it to the finals. She didn't win in the finals, but her project was so good, they highlighted her project in the Smithsonian Institute African American History thing because it was like on voting rights. Okay?
That's amazing.
Crazy, but doable.
Right.
Because I said, you got to work to believe in every single kid. And that concept just took time and massaging it to go push a little bit, push. And you can't go from 0 to 60. You have to go a little bit. And then mindset changes. One thing I had to change was, how do we talk about kids in a meeting?
Right.
How do we talk about kids in a meeting? Don't tell me the problem that the kid has. Don't tell me, we all know what the problem the kid. Tell me what works. What is this kid's unique talent and ability that we have to work on? Or if you are going to tell me the kid's problem, right? Don't just make the problem the problem. What's the fix that we need to implement to deal with this kid's problem? Right? Don't say medication or nothing. Like, I know you're anti-medication, so I'm not speaking to it. But
you could speak about it.
Okay, no. I'm let's say more moderate than you, but that's okay.
Right, okay.
But I had a hard and fast rule: you're not medicating a kid younger than 7 ever.
Right.
Okay, ever. And so what do? The kid's literally running, bouncing off the walls. Okay, we'll figure it out. So there's different type of seats you could buy. There's like these, these things. You ever see these?
Yeah, now they have the things that wrap you
there's things for under the table you could put your feet on to make yourself something to move. There are these like seat cushions that have these like raised things that kind of give them a little bit of feedback. They're amazing things. You don't have to medicate every kid. Yes, I'm sorry to say, there are certain kids who with medication will fly and without will fail.
Yeah.
But you could do a lot before you get to that point. So I'm just saying, we just kept pushing. And the naysayers were naysayers. But I hired believers, and the believers convinced the naysayers over time. It takes time.
How do you have, I get, this is actually interesting.
But you lead. You have to lead and say, you have to be a strong believer.
Yeah.
With a lot of patience. You have to have both.
No, that's the thing I'm really fascinated about what you're saying, because in the last a little over a decade, I've been running the programs that I've been. I used to be just the awesome drug counselor, therapist, and everybody just loves me. And like this, it was a breeze. Mm-hmm. All I did was be more popular than everybody else, which wasn't so hard because I'm honest and good. So it worked.
Authentic.
I'm authentic.
Exactly.
It worked. It wasn't rocket science.
That's why I loved you.
Thank you. Then I all of a sudden I was forced into this position of having to run things.
Right.
And I'm constantly like, I know what the end goal I want it to be, and the fighting that you got to get there. And I don't have such, like when you're talking about patience, like I really don't have as much patience as I'm like, come on, we should be there. And I try, but I'm like amazed. Like I'm curious how you have the patience to like
you got to build
fight
teams.
through all
teams.
this.
There's a whole book about this.
Tell me about the teams.
Teams. You got to build teams.
Okay.
Like this. You feel a certain way. There's 2 or 3 people around you who might feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
You become the team. And you go, we're going to lead. Right? There's a book, Somebody Move My Cheese. You ever see that book?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just fascinating.
Right, that book is a book with the penguins they have to find another place to live, and they have to figure it out, and they don't want to leave because they like it the way it was. And this guy takes a couple of people on an exploratory mission. They find the other place. They convince the other. It takes time.
Right.
You need a team. You can't do it yourself. Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't do it himself. Let's understand that, right? Moshe Rabbeinu, lead the Jewish people. He needed the Shivim Zakanim. He couldn't do it himself.
Right. But that was Yisro's idea.
It was a great idea.
It was a good idea.
See, Yisro understood how to lead. He was great. He was a leader himself. Moshe, you can't do this yourself. No way. Because you believe in something. You know the truth. But the rest of you people don't know anything. You got to find some people you could build up to be your team. So it takes team. First, build a team. A strong, well-organized, well-oiled team. And that team will slowly convince others. Now, they're going to have their challenges because what do you mean? Whatever, can't be, right? Everybody changes. Everybody changes when they see the success at the end. And you got to celebrate the short-term wins. That's another big piece, right? You got kid X went from being illiterate to now he could read on a level D, whatever that means, right?
Right.
Oh, right? Wow,
Yeah.
great guys. You did great. You believed in the kid. Look what he's doing.
Well, it's fascinating because I have some radical views with the addiction stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to push
Yeah, I'm so shocked that you have radical views.
They're kind of radical. I try to like
Uh-huh.
make it sound less radical,
Yeah,
but they're actually more radical than
Radical
even.
views. Sonny Perlman, radical views. No. Such a one. Okay. Yeah.
It's a shocker.
Shocking.
And it's dealing with a population that's high risk. It's very high risk.
I know. I know you're dealing with
I just
death.
came, I'll tell you today, I just came from, I went to a bris of one of the guys I dealt with,
Uh-huh.
and he had a child,
Uh-huh.
son. It was amazing. And then I went to a Shiva for another guy who passed away.
Oh.
And like, this is what I'm dealing with. So it's like you have the wins, you have the losses.
Yeah, well,
there.
yeah. I mean, with you, with me, it's reading. For you,
I know
it's life or death.
It's
hard.
life or death, and it's terrifying. So we'll have situations where everything feels like it's falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
Like I run homes that if more than 3 people are not doing well at once,
forget it.
Like
Okay,
it's
yeah.
collapse
Yeah,
zone.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
coming, and I'm always the one who's like standing strong. And so once in a while, I lose my team. Like they are sitting around, and it's because they're looking at me and wondering if I'm doubting. I think when you talk about authenticity, like they're like taking a look. I'm like, this guy's doing something wrong. This guy's doing something wrong, and I always know it's me. It's not them because I'm doubting, and I'm amazed that you like. There's so much you've done. Like I start like, okay, we've been doing all this. These are the methods. The regular methods fail a lot, but this is also seems like it's failing now. And I'm like, and I know it's worked in the past, but I like forget. And they watch, and like if my, I guess this is what you're saying is like if I'm slipping a little,
they're gonna.
I watch the whole crowd start to
Yeah.
slip.
It's
So
okay,
I don't know
you're
how you
You're
keep
allowed to
going.
be normal, you know.
I'm allowed to be normal.
Yes, give you permission. It's not every day is great. You know that.
Some really rough days.
I know your business. Oh my God! But you have to give yourself chizuk. You have to find a place where you can just regroup yourself and come back.
Right.
And you have to believe in what you believe, and not let go of your beliefs. That's like the number one thing. You can't let, even in the worst day, let that change what you believe. Maybe it's new information that says, "Oh, what I thought was the ideal way to deal with this." I'm just giving you advice.
Right. No, I'm listening.
You know,
You're the master educator.
You have your menu of like 6 different ways that you could deal with this particular problem, right? And all 6 failed. So then what you need to believe is that there's a 7th way. You don't have to have the answer, but you have to believe that there's a 7th way because God gave us God put us in the world to do the best we can, and the answers are there. We just have to find them.
Right.
But if you don't believe if you give up, then the team's giving up. So you can't ever give up. Sometimes you could say, there's got to be another way. Let's do more research. Let's figure it out. Let's come back. Everybody run out. Let's go find ideas. Come back to the table. Let's come up with a solution that we could try that we didn't do yet.
I know. I think I'm just having a little temper tantrum. If I could explain what in my heart right now, I'm like parenting.
Yeah.
It's nonstop. I mean, at some point, I want to collapse and just misbehave. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yelling at your kids is good.
I know, but I'm saying it's like when I'm running these programs, I feel like it's like intensive parenting. Like and this year, I don't know if you know, my mother passed away. I don't know if you knew that.
Sure.
So,
Great lady.
Yes, and it was
unbelievable.
You know the funny thing, you know the kids in school, like 7th and 8th grade, all assume my mother worked in the school.
Really?
Just because she was always there bailing me out of something. They're like, she doesn't work here. So that's pretty funny.
She always did bail you out, by the way.
She bailed you out every time.
Oh my God. No, she was always bailing you out. She gave me, I understood you, but I had to have a Rebbe to help me understand you.
An interpreter.
So she was like, you don't understand Sonny Perlman. This is how it works with Sonny Perlman. I go, really? But that's not the regular way. My son's regular. He's not regular. Don't insult me. Come on. Just got to understand.
Really?
She was the best. Oh my God.
Yeah, she would come in and bail me out. One time
And she was so sweet about it, by the way.
Was she?
Yeah. No, she fought for her kids, but she never made you feel low. I don't know how she pulled that off.
Really?
She always made me feel good.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine such a thing? And I didn't always agree with her. and you weren't so easy.
No.
But yeah, no. And a lot of Hakaras Tov outside of school. Hakaras Tov is big, you know?
Yeah.
Because she knew what I was dealing with, and she knew you weren't easy, and she knew it was hard. And she said, I appreciate that. I appreciate what you're doing for my son. I appreciate that you understand him, you know?
Yeah. I will say that, and I'll get back to my other point, but when a parent is appreciative, you want to take care of their kids.
100%.
100%. And I tell parents all the time, just smear everybody. Just walk in and smear them with love, smear them with everything. Just go over there and tell them how much you love it.
Principal, I appreciate what you're doing, and I appreciate how difficult it is to run a class. I'm sure it's hard. Yeah. And I know that my child is not the best, but let me give you a couple of pointers that might work based upon my parenting. Please help me. You know your kid better than me. No one thinks they know their kid better than you.
Right.
So, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, you just want to. I definitely experienced that.
Good. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, so she passed away this year, and it was a very difficult year for me.
Yeah.
So I seen myself slipping.
Right.
Like I want to just take. Like, there's no time to take off and be like, guys, you got to just run this place yourself.
Right.
Because then it starts to collapse. That's what I was talking about. Like, the amount, like, you gone 36 years of running these things, plowing through, it amazes me. I mean,
it's hard. It's hard. It's a big challenge. Finding time for yourself, giving yourself that place to reboot, and it's a must.
Right.
Especially what you're doing. You're doing it, much harder than what I'm doing. What doing is life and death.
It's life and death. It's really terrifying at times. Although I'd much rather do this than be a fifth grade Rebbe. That sounds like a horror story to me. That'd be scary.
You did what you're good at. But I'm saying you put yourself out there. You have your beliefs. You know there's a way to get to the guy, and they're gonna look at you like. A didn't work, B didn't work, C didn't work, D didn't work, E didn't work. So just say there's a sixth way we didn't figure out yet.
Right.
We're going to figure it out together. Yeah. And guess what? You don't have to own the answer either. That's something you got to grow up a little bit. Like, I don't have to be the answer to everything. Listen and hear what like other people say. Maybe that becomes the answer. But the leader is not the one with the answer. The leader is the one who puts out that there is an answer.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you the funniest thing that I've experienced many times, because I'll be like, oh my gosh, things are just not working, like once in a while. And I'll say, okay, let's do this. And they're like, and my staff will look at me and go, that's not your approach.
Right.
That's not what you taught us. Right. We're not doing any of that. We're doing what you said. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Good. Like, they have to like knock me back on course often.
That's good. So you have a healthy team.
No, it's a good team. I just feel like sometimes so much pressure to keep them going, and I learn to delegate. But I will say this is something, and I mentioned in the beginning, the TOVA program.
Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about that yet. Yeah,
we didn't even talk about the TOVA program.
Oh my God.
I will tell you, the TOVA program is the beginning of all my work, meaning it's like when I realized. It's funny because I became a therapist and I did all the therapy stuff and all that stuff. At the end of the day, mentoring is the core of everything.
It's it.
So I didn't really get that until I was doing the TOVA program.
Oh, so yeah.
Meaning, no, before that I was like getting the good therapy and and I was like, the TOVA program was just being. So I had a very fascinating thing. I'll tell you a funny story with the TOVA program. When I used to go, I had a thing because. I would never go to their classroom.
Right.
So I would always bother the secretary, could you call the kid out?
Right.
Because I don't want them to think that there's a guy picking them up. That was based on my own experience of not liking that happen.
Right way to go. Yep.
Right. So it was the right way to go. Meanwhile, it turned out it didn't matter because eventually it became like really cool to go out with Sonny. Like
you were cool.
It was like a cool day.
Yeah.
And I came in with my funny car and we went places and we like spend time in the thrift shop and like hilarious things. And it was but it was funny because when they loved it, they didn't mind that you came. But when I discovered about the TOVA program is that like there is missing characters in our life that used to exist that are not there. Mm-hmm. It is such a core of everything I do. So what I'm saying is like that's why I interview my nephew or this, like I think like how many people like nowadays, have uncles, aunts, grandparents, people in their life. We've all spread out in ways that we don't have that. So when everybody's very focused on like the qualitative, I'm gonna get that one therapist. So like, you need a spread. Like I had this fascinating thing this other day. This tree fell in my lawn, and I was looking at the root system, and I was like, "This is dumb." No, the reason I was saying this is because the root system was so wide, and there was nothing deep.
Right.
Like it's like a foot deep for an oak tree. I was like, "That's not deep enough for that tree," and I realized that we need a very wide support network and a couple of deep ones. Anyway, so I got that TOVA program. So now the question, I'm just saying because I could give you mad some props. How did you get involved in the TOVA program? Like moving, like weren't you busy enough? That's I guess my question. Like how did that happen? You get involved in all these different projects.
I know I do. It's because it comes. I don't know. Kadosh Baruch Hu sends me stuff and says that's what you have to do. I know it's weird. It sounds very like religious, but like things come my way and I go. I got to do that next. Okay, I got what I got to do next, and I just do it. I'm trying to think, how did I make the TOVA program happen? So it was the begin. Okay, I know what happened. We had the CAHAL program. Okay. CAHAL was for kids that had learning challenges. Okay.
Right.
Now go back. It's now 1996. Okay.
That was just in Darchei or other places?
It was all the schools.
It was every school.
And we had it with Norman Blumenthal. Dr. Norman Blumenthal was my partner, and we were running this program, especially the program, all the schools.
Did it start in the A building? No. I'm just asking.
CAHAL, no.
What was in the A building? There was something in the A building.
On our way.
On our way? That's what it was?
Yeah, it was okay. And we had other things there, but that's
go on.
Changing the topic. So
sorry.
We have this CAHAL program. We're doing great things. And now all of a sudden, it's 1995, 1996, and stuff starts happening, okay? And I'm thinking, I'm not sure if this is true, which came first, but there started to be serious drug issues in the community that we never saw before, just never.
Yeah.
Okay? And I think the one that impacted me the most, but I'm not sure, I can't remember if it's timeline before or after, was Weinraub, Shalom Weinraub. Remember him?
I feel like I do.
Shalom Weinraub's Far Rockaway kid. I knew his parents very well. I davened in Young Israel. And
he died?
He had a heart attack on some cocaine thing he did on Rosh Hashanah or something like that.
Yes, I do remember. I do remember now.
I remember at that Levaya, it was in like Aguda or whatever. And that is not happening again. That is just not happening again. I'm going to figure this out. What can we do?
Right.
It's just what can we do? So I said, okay, what the Goyim do? Like, yeah, I mean, we're 20 years behind the time. They've been dealing with this, right? They have kids on drugs. What do they do? So like you do a little research, and there's this idea of mentoring as a like soft type of therapeutic type of approach where an older kid is adopting a younger kid, and maybe that becomes the person in their life that they could like, look up to and become. And you realize even then, this is 30 years ago, that you know what? Families are overwhelmed. The families are huge. 6, 7 kids in a family. They're not getting the attention they need. Classrooms are overwhelmed. It used to be yeshivas were tiny because that's what it was. I hope I didn't break this. Okay. Yeshivas were tiny. Darchei and Yod, 15 kids in a class. If 15 kids in a class, you had a Rebbe, you got you, right? Now you have 30 kids in the class. The Rebbe doesn't have time to individualize. The schools. So let's say had an amazing principal. I was a principal engaging kids at one level, 200 kids. Then it became 400 kids. Then it became 800 kids. Then it became 1,200 kids. How much of me can I give to any one kid?
Right.
Right? So as the community grew and grew and grew, the actual individual connections for the individual kid got less and less and less and less by definition. Not because anyone did anything wrong, right? Not because, and the moms, that you could blame on the moms going to work. That's a piece of it.
By the way, I love how little blame you do. I'm just saying that. I love it. Because there's so many things that people would blame, and you're like, this is the world, and things happen wrong, and that's fine. Let's fix it. You don't need. Okay.
Because you know what blame does?
What?
You know what blame does? When you blame something for a problem, then you immediately take it off of you, and you put it on whoever you're blaming, and then you putter.
Right.
That's the biggest cop out I could ever think of.
Right.
Why would you do that? Don't blame. Roll up your sleeves and do something. Like do something. This kid died.
No, I'm always amazed because you've been in it long enough to be so jaded, and there's nothing you said that's jaded.
No, I'm not jaded against anything, anybody, any school, anything. Nothing. Nothing.
It's wild.
Nothing. Everybody's great, and everybody tries. Everybody does the best that they can. Some better than others. But anyway, going back to,
sorry.
Anyway, I'm not sure which came first. But I do remember that being like this incident, like, okay, I am not living. I remember also like spending an incredible amount of time obsessed for like days researching and doing and finding and doing. And then I created a plan. I'm playing hours and hours and hours. It's like I became obsessed, and I didn't stop because I had to figure this out. And once I figured it out, I went to Norman Blumenthal. I said, Doc, what do you think? He goes, genius idea. Let's do it. And then, do you think we could build it onto CAHAL? Because CAHAL was all the schools. We'll do this on all the schools. Great, let's do it. And then remember Neil Rosen?
Yeah.
So Neil Rosen was like all hot on this. He loved it. Okay. So I got him on board. And I got this young as old Woodmere family, the Ganses, they were into it too, right? And they got involved. So everybody got involved with doing this thing. And I got every single school in except for one. Okay.
Was it dark?
No, Darchei was in.
No, they were not.
Darchei was in right away.
Except for one.
Except for one. Every school was in. I'm not going to name you the one.
Oh, shoot.
You want me to name you the one?
Well, for fun,
All right.
It's a long time ago.
It was Hafter High School. Okay. Hafter High School was not in because what do you mean? We're an amazing school. We're the best school in the neighborhood. What do we need this for? Right. So how did I get Hafter High School in? So mean. So I had the paper still exists, but in those days I had a lot more access to one of the local papers, not the Jewish 5-Town Jewish Times, the Jewish Star. And the Jewish Star said, loved this idea. They were running with the article. And I said to the editor, I'd love to give you this article, but I'm embarrassed because there's one school not in. Which school? I said, Hafter. They called up the principal at Hafter. We're going to press, and we're going to put into the thing that you're not in. They were in.
Wow.
And that's what we got every single school in. Every single school agreed. Every school, whatever. And we hired great people. You were one of the great people. Klinkwitz, Ellie Shapiro.
I was one of the first. Ellie was before me.
Yeah. We had great mentors. I mean, amazing mentors. And Norman Blumenthal was like the clinical psychologist kind of doing the training piece to make sure that it was like appropriate.
Right.
Because how do you do a mentor relationship? What's the relationship between the mentor and the mentee? Where are the boundaries? These are big issues that had to be worked out. You can't just take some random 19-year-old and say, here's a kid, go out with him. You have to like really give them the understanding how to be the listening ear, what type of feedback. But it went. There were people I know whose lives we changed just because we did this.
I'm still close to guys. 26 years ago. I think it's 26 years ago. I'm still close to guys that still reach out to me if they have issues from 26 years ago. From that, they see them. I mean, we were having like things going on in my house. Somebody was coming over. The guys in Darchei would walk down the hall. It's sunny days. Monday and Wednesday. It's sunny days. It was like they were recruiting their friends.
Right.
You got to get in on this.
It was a thing, and it was great, and the work was incredible, and we changed lives. And we did some amazing things.
But there was also something very special. I would say this. The mentoring, when I was training mentors and being a mentor myself, it took a while to figure out that I'm not fixing anything.
Right.
Like, it's not my job to fix the mother and fix the father.
Just listen.
It's just be there for this person.
Just listen. That's the key to mentoring. That's all they needed was just a listening ear. That's it.
Right. The whole Our Place is built on this concept.
I know.
It's completely built on this concept. It's everybody needs somebody who's not even trying to help you.
No judgment.
It's not even trying. Just wants to love you and hold you.
Judging.
People did not understand the power of that. I'm just saying. I mean, at least in the Jewish world.
No, they didn't. But it was incredible. No, it's really, really.
It was really amazing. Although I'm curious nowadays, like with everybody being terrified, like having people taking kids out. I don't know if that would work today.
It kind of phased out.
Phased out?
My end,
it did phase out.
I don't know if it was because of me phasing myself out, because you grow up and you do something else. Like that wasn't my thing anymore. The fundraising was hard. And
also, I got Yehuda.
Yeah, and you stole Yehuda from me.
No. I waited till he was done. I would never steal it.
Honestly.
But I got him right after.
The fundraising was difficult, and the challenges were difficult, and other people came into the business that did it different than us.
Yes.
And I'm not saying bad or good, but
Right.
it's different. Ours was very clinical, and we wanted it to be. In other words,
Right.
I needed to know that if you had a guy that you were taking out as a mentee that's like, talking suicide, that you were going to have pick up the phone, call Norman Blumenthal, and know what to do.
Right.
Okay? I'm not trusting you at 18, 19 years old to know what to do if a kid says, I want to kill myself, right? So, but other programs that developed a little bit more chilled, so they don't necessarily have that clinical basis, and so
Right.
that became
I
more
think
popular.
that people also try to like mix it in with the chavrusa
Yeah, it became
type
the
of
chavrusa
thing.
thing, right? Because
Which is also cool.
It became a little bit more appealing to do with that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's working. I moved on. They moved on. It's still happening. It's happening in a lot of cities. It was also, so I was able to start this up in Queens and in Baltimore and in Florida and in other places. Just
Well, what I was telling you, this is one of the reasons I really wanted to bring it up, is that it's still very much alive. It's saved countless lives. Like I run an entire community here of people in recovery. It's based on that.
wow.
It's not it is not gone.
Wow.
And I'm always tooting, like, because I've got all the degrees and I'm supposed to be very, very excited about all the clinical, like, like I could do. I still am more impressed with a mentor than a therapist any day.
Wow.
Which is crazy thing to say, because I think when you look at the studies, like the resilience studies, they have a whole bunch come out of Hawaii and stuff like that. Everybody who came from those really difficult backgrounds, the only thing that made the change, they didn't say a therapist. It was always someone believed in me. Or it was two things, either
That's the
having an
power-
alternative
that's the power of
family
belief. That's my
or
whole-
someone believed in me.
Yes.
And that was it. So like everything I'm doing, all the training I'm doing, it's almost like I'm dumbing down how, like, I'm like, guys, this is nuts and bolts. We know this forever. This is ancient. This is what the aunt used to do, or the uncle used to do, and the grandfather used to do. It's missing. We need it now. So that's what I'm saying.
I'm just saying you hit the nail on the head, because that goes to my like core belief system and just how to deal with kids, is believing in them. But I'm going to get to something a little bit less technical. So there's a person, Angela Duckworth, right? She's a psychologist. She runs a character lab in Philadelphia. Famous. She wrote Grit Theory. She was the one who did Grit. You've heard of Grit?
I've heard of Grit. I didn't know.
Yeah, so she's the Grit lady. Okay, she was a teacher. She became a therapist. She developed a theory of grit. She has a grit scale. You can take the test, see how gritty you are. Amazing, right? To know that people with grit succeed more than people with high IQ. That was her whole chiddush in life.
Right.
Okay, people with grit succeed more than people with high IQ. Great.
I hate to say this, but shkayach.
Yeah, okay, great.
No, sorry.
I know, I'm saying, but that was her
Yeah,
thing.
okay,
That
right.
became all the business models and grit. They're looking for people who have grit, not high IQ. Good.
Right.
How do you develop grit?
Right.
Right? If grit is the thing, how do
She
you
doesn't
develop-
talk about it?
She did.
Okay.
She did. But it took a while. It's only more recently, right? Okay. To say, I'm going to give the other one. Okay. What's the other one? Fixed mindset versus growth mindset.
Okay.
Right? That's
Right.
that other one. That's, what's her name? Dweck, Carol Dweck, right?
Right.
Fixed mindset, bad. Growth mindset, good. All the business models are growth mindset, good. How do you take a kid who's failing in school to go from having the fixed mindset that I'm a loser to having a growth mindset that I could succeed? How do you do that?
Okay.
Okay.
I love this.
One thing and one thing only.
Okay.
Somebody's got to believe in the kid. If you believe in the kid, then you could become more gritty, because you know what? If Mr. Altabe, principal, believes in me, little 7-year-old, that I could do something, then maybe I have to believe in me that I could do that something. And that's going to give me the grit to overcome whatever I have to overcome to get past my difficulty. Everybody's got difficulty. Everybody's got challenges, right? Kid has a reading issue, dyslexia, right? I'm flipping the letters backwards and forwards. It's a pain. You got to believe. It's a great story. I could go all day with stories, but there's a
Go with stories, because I have something I want to say.
6-year-old help kid, okay? Kid is, his father was a Darchei kid from back in the day. 6-year-old help kid. Genius, the best kid in reading in English in the school, but he takes the Kriya test and he's like very weak in Kriya. And I go, that's a problem. And I said to me, that's one of the underlying bases of why kids go off, is because if they're smart and they can't master Kriya and they're forced to read a pasuk and they can't, or they're forced to daven and they can't, and they fall out of davening and they fall out of learning and they fall, because how can something be difficult for me that's easy?
Right.
So then I did a little more analysis, research. You know why that is? Because the kid's reading English in paragraphs, not reading the words. He sees the whole paragraph and he knows immediately what that paragraph is talking about. He doesn't have to read every single
You're
word.
really describing me, by the way.
Okay, you're one of those guys,
Yeah.
right? He could see the whole thing in one paragraph, right? So he's got it. Kriya, he can't. So I said, I called up the parents and said, get down here with the kid. I said to the kid, listen, you are the smartest kid in this grade, but you have a challenge, okay? And your challenge is Kriya, okay? And I explained to him what his challenge is. And he's like nodding his head, like the parents are nodding their head. And I know it's difficult for you, but I'm telling you, if you work on it, you can overcome it. But it's going to be work. It's not going to be easy like reading English. It's going to be tough. And you're going to be annoyed that how come it's not coming easy? But it isn't. It's not going to be easy, but you could do it because I believe in you and your parents believe in you. You got to do this, okay? I told him that 3 months ago. Second to last day of school, he comes over to me. Mr. Altabe, could you test me in Kriya? I said, why? I have these Kriya tests that we do. They didn't. The team didn't test you? No, they tested me. I want you to test me. Why do you want me to test you? Because I want to show you. Okay? Comes to my office, starts reading, and way better than it was before. Not perfect yet, but way better. I said, wow, that's amazing growth. You got to keep at it. I'm going to keep at it. Yeah, where you're going to be in Camp Avenue in the summer where I could see you? Yeah, we're going to, in a month, I'll test you again. I want to do this. Because why? Because I believe in him. So that belief gives him the grit to overcome the problem. And if not, that kid, 5 years from now, goes, learning? I know I'm English, great. I'm great in English. I'll be a lawyer. I'll be a doctor. I'll be this and that. Learning, forget about it.
Right.
I'll be one of those.
Yeah. I had to fight my way back because Korea was the biggest issue. I still can't see words. I only see pictures. Like I read a whole page in 1 second, like it's just there.
Right.
I know it, but in Hebrew, it's like
you get the contextual clues. You know what it means based on the language, what it's saying, where it's going. You figure
It
it out.
took me years as an adult to learn how to read Hebrew and to like understand what was happening as an adult, which is wild.
So we failed you. I'm sorry.
But actually, no. I didn't give you guys much of a chance.
It took me 37 years. I felt when I realized this thing about this kid and I saw the whole thing, I go, that explains. There were like 50 kids in my career that explained in one shot. I go, oh my God, I had to wait till the end of my career to get this, but at least I got it. So
you got it.
I got it.
It's so important. You have no idea. And it's
but maybe the
very
people out
often
there should realize if you have a smart kid and the kid can't read Hebrew, right? And then what? You know what happens to these kids? They're sitting in second grade and the Rebbe's talking about something in the Chumash, and the kid, because he has a great memory, knows something. He says
everything.
Oh, that's like a public answer. They do that, right? You're a Talmid Chacham. Okay, now you put it in the head, I'm a Talmid Chacham, but I still can't read.
Still can't read.
Right. So now what? So then you hit so it's even worse. Because on the one hand, you know you're smart. On the other hand, you can't do this. And then what, am I an idiot? I must be crazy. Forget this whole thing. I'm throwing it out. That's what happens. Your
mom was describing a very strong part of my childhood. It just said I wasn't used to things being hard.
Right.
In terms of intelligence, I wasn't used to it. But I can't, if I didn't understand the language, I can't see the word. It doesn't make sense. I'm phonetically reading a word.
But the belief thing is
even now, like, parents, they spell out a word to each other as like a code.
Right.
When my kids are old, you can't do it. My wife will spell it out to me, and I'm like, and I read more English than anybody I know. Right. And I'm like, Y-E-S. Oh, wait. Start again. Y.
That's funny.
No, so I have.
But going back to this belief thing, it's the whole thing.
Right. So I had a similar experience when I was starting out in the career. Right. So like everybody's talking about like self-esteem. You got to do self-esteem, and you got to build the self-esteem. And I started going around to all the therapists because it's like I'm like, okay, so the problem is self-esteem,
right,
behind everything,
right.
And we could define self-esteem, figure out self-esteem, but that's the problem. If we could fix people's self-esteem, or other words, grit, or other words, belief in yourself, and you can fix that. So, okay, you're the therapist. I went to like everybody, and I was just like, how do I fix self-esteem? Just a dumb question. Like, how do I fix it?
And tell me
like, you told me the problem.
Nobody had an answer?
Nobody. It was like, well, if you process your childhood and you figure out that, they had that group of people, then you'll understand what's hurting you and you'll be able to move it aside. And there's other people, like, if I know my emotions and I'm able to hold them, I'm like,
give me a break.
Like, it's really not changing people's self-esteem like fully. Actually, 12 steps, AA and NA, like Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, was the closest answer I've ever found to building self-esteem. First of all, it starts with belief.
Right.
I believe that a higher power cares about me and wants to be all right. which was such a fascinating thing because I grew up.
Moda'ani.
Right. Modani is the first thing.
The beginning. Moda'ani
Before you did any mitzvahs,
Right.
before you wash your negavasters. I find that so fascinating because.
Rabba emunah secha. Who's emunah? Hashem's emunah in you.
Right. I love
Rabba
that.
emunah secha.
Right.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that I grew up, I'm not the fault of my parents, but like in general, I grew up as like, if I'm good, then I'm loved. That was the idea. It was conditional.
Right.
And so when I thought of God, I'm like, if I behave nice and I do the right things and God loves me. But the 12 steps and Moda'ani say exactly the opposite. I didn't do anything right. Like, it's so key back in my body. God's like, I already love you. Like, it's not, there's nothing else. I believe completely in you. What do you mean? I had a terrible day yesterday. I don't care.
Right.
So it's like, it starts with that. And that, like, again, I'm putting it back to the mentoring, is that
That's the same. I know. That's where that comes from.
That's what builds self-esteem.
A non-judgmental listening ear that'll just listen, and make you feel loved. Yep.
Right.
That's the core.
I'm having a debate with my guys in the home. Like we have a lot. It's like the community is about somewhere like 60, 70 people strong now. It's like, it's very cool. But there's guys in the house and they're arguing with me like, we need more therapeutic, like more therapy, and more group therapy. And that's what connects us. And I said, if you know, like my goal, you guys should all be in therapy. You should be doing therapy. You want to go to twice a week. You want to go 3 times a week. If you really want, you can. But what's going to help you is if you know that we love you and believe in you. Like that's what's going to help you. And if you're not getting that from this community and this house, then we're failing you. But it's not because too little therapy. I like therapy. I love therapy. But it's on top. That's how you develop. That's,
right. The therapy is the process by which you get out all the demons that are inside you. That a mentor can't do.
Right.
But you're never going to get to that if you don't believe in yourself, and you're never going to believe in yourself unless somebody believes in you. That's you need to just like that kid.
Right.
That kid's never going to fix his Kriya issue by himself unless he knows that somebody's on his team pushing him.
Right.
You know?
So it's this guy actually in the house said to me, it's such a beautiful insight. I have a whole muscle with a gas tank and a car, and it's a great muscle.
Right.
This guy just said one word. He just said fertile ground.
Right.
Like we're providing fertile ground.
Right.
The tree still has to grow.
Right.
They got to do tons of work.
To go on top of the fertile ground. It can't go without. Yep.
The fertile ground. Yep. It was such a beautiful muscle. I loved how when he said it, because also it seems so yummy. I don't know. It just seems like
you can't be.
I don't know if you ever garden.
It's like being a Kli Kibble. You have to be able to accept what they're putting in you. Otherwise, it's going to bounce off.
Right.
Therapy. I could use the best therapeutic anything, but there's nothing there to go into. It's just going to just jump off.
Right. So, okay, what am I not asking you about education?
We did so much.
I know, I loved it. I'm just curious because sometimes I'm talking to someone who's a real expertise in something I don't have an expertise in.
Right.
And I'm asking questions from a whole nother perspective.
I like this perspective.
I also like it, but I'm curious, what is the inside question? What am I not going into that you're like, you're missing a very big piece here? Like we were like, tapping it all. I'm just curious if there's anything that
covered a lot.
Yeah.
We definitely covered a lot. I'm good. I just say like this. I posted this on my LinkedIn, so you maybe want to. You get LinkedIn, right?
I don't. I should.
You should. Okay. Then they asked me.
I have a lot of invites.
I'll send you the video. Okay. So this is my last. I'm 9 years in HALB. I went to HALB as a kid. I was a parent in HALB. I was 9 years principal. They love me. I'm leaving. Right. So they made like all these great things. I'm leaving on my own. Like I didn't get pushed out. I want to leave.
That's the best.
And it was the best. Right. And they treated me with such covet and respect. It was unbelievable. So they did this thing where they made this like Malava Maka the last day. It was Wednesday, whatever. It was like they made this thing. Everybody's singing all these songs. Israel, this, that, another thing. And then they stop and they go, "We want to surprise you. We made up a song about you." 800 kids sing this song. It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. I started crying. It was great. So then I had to speak to okay, here's a microphone. Speak to the kids. Okay? So what am I going to tell them? I want to tell them that, thank you, but like, what am I going to tell them? So my speech to them, my final speech, and this was really my way of going out, and maybe this is the way I want to end this, is I said to them, I believe in you. You were in my office. You got in trouble. You didn't do your homework. You were mean to the teachers. You were mean to each other. I had to deal with the girls with girl drama. All the things that you were in a fight. I believe in you. I don't care what you did. I believe in you. And I went through a few more things, and you failed the test, you did lousy. I believe in you. But I said, here's the gift I'm going to give you. If I could believe in you, in spite of all the things that you may have done, right, then you have to believe in yourself. Okay? That's my gift. I believe in you, therefore you have to believe in yourself. If you believe in yourself, then nothing's going to stop you. You can do anything you want to do in life.
Wow.
That's my message.
That's an amazing message. I will say, I think you should write a book with that title. I believe in you. I will say, and this is why I'm the most excited to have you on, is that I want to tell you that I felt it as a kid. And I felt it as a teenager when I worked with you as a lifeguard.
Oh, yeah, that was fun.
And I felt it, yeah. And I was stoned the whole time.
I know. You didn't think I knew, but I know.
The whole time. Yeah. Fantastic. I even want to.
You were funny stoned, I must say.
I was funny, yeah. I'm a good.
You still had focus.
I still have focus. And then you believed in me in the TOVA program. Mamish, you lived it, and I felt it, and it's like such an honor to have my little hobby here, to have you here.
Great.
And
thank you so much.
Tell the world. And whoever gets to consult with you is going to really appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's a wild change of career, but I guess.
You know what?
Yeah.
It's time. I like Higia's mom. There's a lot of factors that went into the decision.
Yeah.
And I'm working for a group of schools up here in Muncie, actually. So I'm actually going to be up here.
No way.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm going to be around.
Maybe we could
we'll do more stuff. But
maybe we can do more.
It's curriculum.
I want you to visit my programs if you get a chance.
I would just all be up here, so I can do it.
Okay, good.
Okay, so I've got a group of schools up here. We have some schools nationally we're looking at. It's going to be big. Okay, and it's an opportunity for me to like put my stamp on a whole system of schools. And I'm going more Haredi in this last part of my career.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is great because it's like going back to where I started. You know what I mean? And I feel like I had the opportunity in my life to make an impact on Darchei. I had my 10 years in the Syrian community. I made an impact on the Syrian community. I had my 9 years in HALB. I had my impact on that monthox YU style community. And each of those places got a piece of me. Now I'm coming back and give over my wisdom to the masses and see if we can take chinuch and make it great again.
It's amazing. I don't know if you have any intention of writing a book, but I really want.
It's on my list.
I like books. So
it's my to-do list.
I'm like, that's the greatest title ever. I believe in you.
Yeah.
That's just.
Well, thank you for giving me the.
You know what? I'm calling this episode. I believe in you.
I believe in you. That's it. And
that's
the title of the book. That's my epitaph. That's my life, folks.
It's amazing. I love it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Oh my God, that was great.
Sitting for that long is rough.
2 hours?
What was it? Let me see.
2 hours.
Holy moly.
Don't you have a place to go?
I gotta go to Tom's River now.